having some technical difficulties. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. This is Ms. B, Positively Ms. B, coming to you with Brunch with Ms. B. By the time we finish this, it's going to be dinner. But hey, everybody, it's Ms. B. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm frozen, but I'm talking, and it's just been a hot mess for the last 15, 20 minutes. But thank you so much. Technology, it is what it is. I'm going to try to refresh my screen and see if that helps at all. Well, all right. I think I'm catching up with my mouth. Oh my goodness. All right, we're just going to keep it moving. Hey, everybody, this is Ms. B, Positively Ms. B, coming to you live with a new episode of Brunch with Ms. B. You just saw Gene Mason, my onboard musician, trying to ease the technical difficulties. I'm going to bring him back on before I introduce my guest. Hey, Gene.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for holding down the fort.
My pleasure.
Um, I am extremely excited about this episode. The guest that's coming is not just a personal friend of mine. He has accomplished a lot, and I'm excited to have him on board with Brunch with Ms. B. In case you have not joined us before, Gene Mason has been a guest on the show, and he will be joining me either live or pre-recorded on every episode. If you like the music that he played, he has also made music for Brunch with Ms. B as well as my Friday show. But Gene, in case they don't know you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Listen, uh, Maceo Productions, my wife and I, we are, we are artists, we are speakers, the advocates. We we're doing a lot actually. My wife is a producer for some artists that are coming up, sharing in April. So we're I am Gene Mason, father of 12, husband of one.
You know what? I like putting him on the spot, especially when he's tired. Let me tell you, I did that because I want everybody to know who Gene Mason is, and Shannon is in the background because Gene um, has been there for me when we had a lot of technical difficulties in the past. So he's he's my sidekick, my partner, my co-host. He's a whole lot right now. So I'm going to get ready to introduce our new guest. And Gene, if you would stay on the camera with me while I do that. Unfortunately, again, everybody's having technical difficulties, including my guest. Howard, are you there? Let's see. All right, Howard. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I apologize for the technical difficulties on our end. And I know that was frustrating, but we are live. We are making a absolute entrance of interest. So, Howard, again, I thank you so much. W. Howard Myers is the councilman for Ward 5 in Petersburg, Virginia. He's currently on his fourth four-year term, and I invited him to be a part of Brunch with Ms. B because Brunch with Ms. B is dedicated to allowing men to talk about things that they don't normally talk about. That's in honor of Chris Allen. He had a show with me for years. They used to come on at 7 p.m. East Coast time, talking about issues of men. He created that. He transitioned a few months ago, and in honor of him, I was determined to keep that vein open to allow men to talk about things they don't normally talk about. Today's episode, we're going to talk about it's not just politics. But that being said, W. Howard.
With everybody who was here, and they were all kind and sweet, and just like having family all around you again. And and it got into politics and to really do what's the good for the people. And particularly when we talk about community development and all of those kinds of things, to create a neighborhood or an area where they're proud to rear their children and grow up in, and then to build their financial wealth. That's one of my basic principles, is to help folks build their financial wealth so they can move forward in their lives. So, I mean, but not much. I mean, I sing, you know, I'm a recording artist. I do house music. I do house renovations. I grew up in construction as a kid. Um, various things, you know. Just delve into pretty much anything there is. And that's a little bit about me, I guess.
He's gonna get me. Let me tell you. Howard is not a man who likes interviews, and he says what he has to say, and then he's done with it. So trust me, this is an honor. Even though his picture's not there, this is an honor for him to be with us. One of the reasons why I wanted you to say a little bit about it, because I left Gene on for a purpose. So Gene, did you hear what he said? He has how many albums do you have out, Howard?
I've got probably about 8 songs and two unreleased.
And you said it's house music, correct?
Yeah, so it's dance music, and most of it is in Europe and Asia.
Gene, do you have any questions for him and his contributions to the music industry?
I've got a lot, but I don't know if time will permit.
I want them to know a little bit about, because he's very shy, even though he's an international recording artist. I want to use this opportunity to get some exposure to his music as well before we move forward. I don't know anything about music. I don't know what to ask. So you got a few questions for him?
Yes, yes. How did you get on the international?
Um, well, Eugene, there's a friend of mine, and we've been friends for, oh my God, probably 50 years. I'm 63, but I grew up in Richmond. I moved here 20 years ago. But Carla Brown, who, my God, man, she's the underrated queen of house music, really in.
Am I still on?
And she got me in the studio with her, and we recorded several songs. I started off as a background singer for her, and then she made me come to the mic. And it's just been something something growing ever since. Uh, we we signed up with Beskler Records, Beskler Records out of New York, and they've been producing us with many and various producers throughout Italy and France. And we've had several hits. And not only that, in Ghana, we've got music pretty much everywhere in that genre of house music that we have done. So Carla Brown is really the one who set the tone for me to get out there. Although I did study classical music at VSU. I'm not VSU, I'm sorry, Virginia Commonwealth University, in their community music school many, many years ago, and that's how I really got started in music.
Wow, you're very accomplished, and the fact that you studied classical music, I love classical music. It was my first love at 16,
Yes.
not but classical music. Um, the fact that you makes me jealous.
No,
Yeah.
don't be mad.
So,
To me, it is the groundwork for all music, to be honest, because
it
it
is.
allows you and teaches you how to breathe, and how to sustain your airways in the process. But it's the most beautiful sound that resonates out of your body ever, much more than just your typical, bubblegum radio music. But a lot, and I think that it is a lost art that we need to start regenerating for our young people.
It
For the
is.
future.
Gene,
It,
I'm going to move on, but thank you for getting him to open up a little bit more about his
Oh
music.
God.
All right, Jen, we'll be back with a commercial, okay? All right, so Howard, now that we the cat is out the bag about you being a musician, um, the topic of today is not just about politics. I want to move into your LLC. You are a resident of Petersburg, and you have been involved in the community as well as being on city council. But the LLC, tell me about the LLC. What is it? What does it involve?
Manufacturing area, and the rest is history. That was about 7 years ago. I've had many small businesses, women owned, particularly. I've just had a few men come through, but largely women, minority owned businesses, and nonprofit organizations. I still have many of them in there now, but a lot have come through and built their business and gone on. Done things. We've had anything from insurance, eyelashes, eyebrows, nails, housing. Uh, we even now have Metropolitan Business League in there now, larger organizations. We had Commonwealth Catholic Charities there. We had a lot of service-oriented organizations there in the building, which provided a plethora of services to a lot of folks. And so, and then we'd have events. We'd have weddings, birthday parties. Uh, uh, Greek organizations would have their meetings and parties there and fundraisers. So basically, it was a center of Petersburg to give everyone a platform to showcase what it is that they do so they can move on and grow on into something larger and better. We still exist today, and I'm still feeling hopeful that we will continue to do so.
And again, the topic is it's not just about politics. You
No.
are known for being active in the community, and that project, and as most people know, it is the old Brown and Williamson building. That project has allowed a lot of people to get exposure where they normally wouldn't because you have allowed them to have events there. Let's talk a little bit about those events.
Um, well, there have been several, mainly, weddings and birthday parties, but we have had some fundraising and what we call pop-ups. So we had several pop-ups that were quite successful there. A lot of entrepreneurs coming from around the state. We even had entrepreneurs from Florida in there that drove up, for one full day Saturday, to share and showcase their wares and retail their wares, there at the building. I mean, and then we'd have fundraisers where we would go out in Gillfield's parking lot and help raise money for individuals who are less fortunate. So there are a lot of activities that have gone on that I'm very proud of, and that a lot of folks have helped me with along the way to make these things happen.
One of the reasons why I brought that up is because even though they were weddings and parties and celebrations, the people who actually serviced those events were a part of the community, like the caterers and the DJs, and a lot of people were connected to these small events. So that in itself was a contribution to the economy of the community. Recently, it was about business in Petersburg. You were there. A lot of notable people were there. Those type of events have been a catalyst for other people to be interested in what Petersburg has to offer business wise. That event, do you think there will be more events like that and maybe at a time that's more convenient for other people to attend?
Yeah, I think that was kind of something that the MBL put together. I'm fortunate when you apply for these grant funds, if you don't have those processes in place or tangible documents where you can show that you've been in business for X number of times. We've had people that had been in business for 14, 15 years and never had a business license. So they couldn't apply for these funds. And we're talking about up to $25,000 where it's a simplistic application, the most simplistic application I've ever seen. So I have to give the state credit for that, for this Founders Fund application, because any others that I've seen will destroy you on the first page before you even get beyond to the second phase of filling out that application. But really, it is to convey all the necessary requirements that are needed, to apply for these types of grants and any funding. But I'm not just picking on Wells Fargo. There are several other banks that really, when we look at the African American community, we don't have the financial wherewithal that our Caucasian folks do. And it's not to say that they are not hurting at all, but not as much as our small business, especially women and minority businesses. They do suffer from the lack of financial support when they're trying to create their endeavors. And there's not
It's
many resources.
it's not just politics when it comes to you. You have
No.
an interest in the community. I notice that you like to involve people who have artistic abilities.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the art district, the arts in the Petersburg community. How are you trying to get them more exposure?
Well, there is. I sat on I was the president of the Southside Virginia Council of the Arts when we started Friday for the Arts downtown Petersburg. As I said, I grew up in good classical music, but at that time, parents back in the day said, "Oh, you're not going to make any music, any money making music. You need to go to job, get out here, get that hammer, and go out here and swing that hammer. While we're out here building these houses and all that kind of stuff, and get an education." But the arts is, for some reason, has a passion that I can't get rid of. And so when I came to Petersburg, that made me the president of the Arts Council. We did Friday for Arts. We were very successful. I ran the Petersburg Regional Arts Center for 7 years down there before it transitioned into the Ward Center for the Arts downtown, and they renovated that building. But the passion for the arts is to give them a platform to show their wares, to keep the arts alive in Petersburg. I'm getting ready is to introduce what I would call a boards and commissions for the arts. And that's now what I'm working on now. I probably will introduce that at the next meeting. But that's the only part of politics I get into. I'm really not a political person.
Exactly. That's
I
another
just
thing I
enjoy
want to.
working.
Um, Jean would like to have your number if you don't mind.
That's
Um,
fine, 804 I give it out at the council meeting. Sometimes somebody say, "Oh, we not able to reach you. We can't reach you." I say, "Well, I don't know why. My phone number everywhere on the internet."
I'll
So
make sure
you can
that
try to reach me.
I'll make sure that's done in the credits.
That's right.
We've talked a little bit about who you are as a property investor, as a community supporter, an advocate for the arts. We're going to take a short break. Gina's going to play a little music for us. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the political side. You're a man in politics, but you're not a politician. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But thank you so much. Just hold on, everybody. Gina's going to play a little bit, and we'll be right back. Probably.
No, actually, it's inspired by my wife. I wrote who is a soloist, and he wanted some music, and it is a I love it.
All right, everybody. There you have it. He'll be back to close us out. We're right at the 30-minute mark, even though we started late. We've covered a lot. If you're just joining me, this is Ms. B, live on my Facebook pages, talking with Councilman for Ward 5 in Petersburg, Virginia, W. Howard Myers. We're having some technical difficulties all over my computer. Everybody having something going on today. But you know what? At least we're here. So I'm excited to have him on board. We've talked about him being involved in the community as a real estate I'm gonna say interest. He has real estate interest. He's active in wanting more for the arts in the community of Petersburg. But the topic of today is not just about politics. A lot of people have positions of authority, and they're politicians. But today we're going to talk about the other side of being in politics. It's not just about politics. So, Gene, we'll be right back with you. Stand by, and we're having to do an audio with my guest, Howard Myers. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Ms.B.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And again, I truly apologize for the technical difficulties, but I believe your message is still going to be heard. Again, we talked about a lot of things, but the issues of men is dedicated to allowing men to talk about issues that aren't necessarily talked about. You are entering into you said you're going to retire. You are entering into your fourth year term as a councilman in Ward 5. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that means this is definitely not your rodeo, and it's not all about politics because you reside in the community, you have connections, you have friends. As I'm going to say fourth term, how has being on the council impacted you as far as your relationships with people in general? Because it's not just about being blacks and a black man in politics. It's about being a man who happens to be black in politics. How has that impacted your relationships?
Hmm. Well, Miss B, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard work um, when you really care about what's going on in Petersburg. It takes a lot out of you, but you still have to make a living. And, you have to find ways to make a living. A lot of people find it easy to discard you because you're on city council than they do. And the majority do love you. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is my fourth term. But I have to tell you that when I run and run again, it gets better and better. So I must be doing something right for the people that support me. And so I try to do all that housing for our constituency here in Petersburg. We get dinged sometime about all that we do to try to make it economically feasible for people here in Petersburg. But, sometimes other folks take it out of context. Um, but, being involved and being a catalyst, to help people here that's my politics side, but it's also my personal side as well. And so where some folks say I have conflicts of interest, I don't see where a conflict of interest enters into the picture when actually what you're really doing is you're voted in to help people in your ward anyway. So, whatever conflicts there, and I don't get financial gain or anything of that nature. But even people just create conflicts where they're not necessary. If I can open the door for somebody, yes, I will open that door. And that's what it's about.
You know, I have to say, I've personally seen how you work for people who have issues. And again, for me, regardless of what position of authority or leadership you're in, you're not going to please everybody. And everybody is not meant to be your supporter or your friend. And so, where you are now in your fourth leg of this journey, what would you like to see accomplished in these last 4 years? What main purpose do you think you want to serve while on council?
Um, well, I guess the work that we started and continue to revitalize our neighborhoods, create better financial and wealth opportunities for the people that live here. Um, those are kind of my mainstays. Affordable housing, of course, but my mainstay is so that people can live and raise their children in a decent environment, and that's what it's all about. I mean, particularly we're in the food desert. You know, we're working towards a grocery store. I'd like to see more of, as I'm hopefully creating this commission for the arts, more artists come into town and start building up a real fun kind of environment. Performing arts, particularly for our young girls, young boys and young girls, you know, is to create a dance school or a ballet school or something, anything that would be entertaining that would help them to evolve, you know, in the arts, as well as how that trickles down into your basic education as well, and creating, you know, building up your cognitive skills as well. So like, those are the kinds of things that I think that I believe that helping folks to be well-rounded and to at least get out of Petersburg and go out and visit and see how other communities are, so that you can come back and involve yourself in your own neighborhood and help build your neighborhood. So really rebuilding Petersburg and its neighborhoods and its family structure, I think, is most important for me for these next 4 years coming up.
I'm excited to know that I have the opportunity to turn this into a podcast because this video is just not. I'm having technical difficulties, but I know the audio is acceptable. So this will be turned into a podcast as we move into.
From high school, they get certification. Even in high school, you can get a certification in the community colleges and start a job at either Flow or AMPAC or Civica there, making up to $60,000 a year just out of high school. So opportunities are really available, coming available through these certification programs, through the Breakpoint, which used to be John Tyler. And, you know, we've got Amazon here and several other organizations. They don't necessarily are in Petersburg, but they are available within the area. I think that the future of Petersburg is bright. And when we get to the educational system, I really don't want to comment on it too much because I have some difficulties, and I don't throw anybody under the bus, but I think that at some point we will be getting there very soon, and we have to. But I think the opportunities for our young folks are there and accessible. I just think that we need to look towards opportunities and create better opportunities along the way. But I don't think that there's a shortage of businesses coming to Petersburg. We're looking hopefully now at this $1.4 billion economic development be built over on Wagner Road, but that is in the hands of our General Assembly at this point, and hopefully we will have some response for a referendum maybe within the next 2 weeks if we're able to do that. But that is a huge, huge transformation for Petersburg if we're able to get this $1.4 billion opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm loving what I'm hearing. You know, when the NBL was down there and they had panel, um, I was able to attend, and I plan to post a few snippets of that event moving forward because knowledge is powerful. If you're not aware that the knowledge is available, then you don't have any power. What I'm getting at is, as far as the citizens are concerned, they have elected.
And we have our challenges, we have our debates, but we all agree pretty much on the same thing. What is the benefit for Petersburg? And I think that, the misconception is that um, we're not transparent. We are not telling folks what's going on. That's untrue. The bargaining table has to be what, and I have to explain what is closed session. And these negotiations are for the benefit of the city, and you cannot publicly, establish other inquiries when you're trying to negotiate the best and the greatest opportunity for this. You can't do that publicly, and so, but they do become public when the time is available. So I think the misconception is that we're not transparent. There's nothing hidden in the dark at all. I mean, if you look where we have come from, we took on a burden of $5 million in the hole, and at this particular point now, we are $40 million in the plus. So we have a fund balance up to about $40 million at this point, and looking at how we can utilize but preserve our fund balance so that we can continue to grow the city of Petersburg. But those are some of the things that I hear and my colleagues hear, experiencing things, continue to move on, and it's just uncalled for some time, and it's folks are swirling around on Facebook, running down the city. That's what they live in, and I can't understand it. Those are the things I don't understand. I block all of that mess off of my Facebook page. I'm not interested in it. But when you destroy the sanctity and
Said they're bashing the city leadership, and I can understand that they have concerns, but what else can they do themselves to make things better?
uh, I guess reserve some of their comments about the pitfalls of Petersburg and be more positive about what Petersburg may have to offer. What a lot of folks don't really understand is how historic the city of Petersburg is. And so you need to start volunteering and focusing on what is Petersburg and not what you think Petersburg is sitting behind a computer screen. Petersburg has a tremendous amount of history that needs to be told. We need folks to stand around and sit around and talk about how do we increase, the marketability of Petersburg rather than running it down about who got hit, who did this and who did that. Basically, really, to be honest, if you go anywhere else in this world, the civil rights movement has nothing to do with Petersburg, which is untrue. This is where it started. This is where it started. But you don't hear many, many people thrashing and rushing out of there to say this is where it started. Not in Selma, not in Atlanta, not here and there, although you had the same issues. But this is where the control room was in Petersburg. And so not only that, the oldest street council. And our time here, what you need to understand is that we are humans just like everyone else. And so I'm not pleading for anyone to treat me any differently. I'm just saying that, you have to believe in who you've elected to represent you and believe, and if they don't represent you, then the next time it comes up, you vote them out.
Well, I would like to congratulate you because, again, regardless of the naysayers and the ups and downs, you could not have been elected for a fourth 4-year term if you were a bad butt. So
Absolutely.
you have
And I don't
integrity.
wear it on my sleeve, don't.
No, you are just as humble as you can be. Before we move into another subject, I would just like to segue into something. My daughter is recovering from a medical condition, and one of the things she wanted to do was to get reacclimated to the area, and she asked me to recently take her down to Pocahontas Island, and she made a post, and she was concerned because I'm not going to say it's neglected, but it has not been preserved. A lot of correspondence that there is one gentleman who has been designated as the mayor of Pocahontas, but he appears to be the one in charge of the holdings on Pocahontas, which is an amazing legacy and person, not a councilman. You mentioned the legacy of the history of not just blacks, but the Native Indians, and a lot of things happen. And right here on Pocahontas Island, um, is there anything that we can do as a society, not just in Petersburg, to help Mr. Stewart to preserve it? Because even though it's clean and neat, it is sad to see there and wasting away.
Well, I have to tell you that, and the mayor will tell you, and we have said it several times, I've been our head librarian for us to a climatic controlled area where these things can be housed to stop any deterioration um, from most of these archival uh, pieces of history. And so that's where we are at this particular point. I'll be meeting with Wayne again here soon to talk about moving forward and where we are. And we certainly am looking forward to an African American museum here, or Black History Museum here in Petersburg at some point.
I'm
And
looking
we'd
forward
like
to that.
folks to support us and help raise funds to help that to happen. Yes.
Absolutely. That's exactly why I brought it up because even though the video quality is not the way I want it, but